Well, this topic and the name of this podcast being Are Receptionists a Complete Waste of Money? I feel like I like I like shock value, and also it's to get you to listen to the bloody podcast episode. It's a bit controversial. It should spike your interest and go, oh, what's this about? This seems controversial. So tick that box. But I'm really looking forward to unpacking this topic because I think as a dynamic trio that we've got here today, we are so fussy and so opinionated on this topic.
No.
No, which makes for a bloody good episode because no one wants to listen to a dud, boring, flat, meh podcast episode. But we've got three amigos in the podcast room today. We've got myself, we've got Marie, but we also have luscious Linda, who's a part of our coaching team, and our very first podcast guest.
Yay!
Woo! We're popping our guest cherry.
Yay. I'm glad to be the one to pop that cherry.
We put the pampas grass out the front of the podcast room and we picked up Linda's keys out of the bowl and now it's a menage a trois. How's that?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Here we are.
So, who better to intro themselves and give us a bit of a background history on why the hell you're here and why we chose this topic to have you as a guest than Linda herself? So, over to you, girlfriend.
Okay, thanks, Jay. Firstly, thanks for the privilege of being the first guest. It's an honour.
Oh, our pleasure.
Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, good question, because I've never touched a head of hair in my life and I've never touched a face in my life. So for skin clinic owners or hair owners, that might say something. My background, it's varied and it's long because I'm old, but I started my career in fashion, visual merchandising, fell into this industry really just by having conversations with a business owner where I used to have my hair blow waved weekly. And from there, I was offered some casual work as a front of house. Well, actually, we called it salon coordinator in that business because it was posh. So salon coordinator, reception, front of house. And I found I had a natural ability, a natural skill for it. And I really, really loved it. From there, I was offered other jobs in other businesses. So I moved around a little bit, still keeping up my fashion visual merchandising in a consultancy basis. And then COVID hit, didn't it? And so COVID shut down my fashion work. And in the middle of COVID, I get a call from the fabulous Jay and Marie about the opportunity to work in this business. So there you go, another change again. But there's one thing that I say that carries you through all of those roles, and it's probably the thing I think is the most important thing for reception front of house salon coordinator to have, and that's people skills.
100%.
You need to have good people skills. Yeah.
It's like that saying, when you walk into a business and you get that sourpuss, isn't it, on the front reception or the person that greets you, you think, really, does she want to be at work? Like, you've got to have the smile and everything else comes with it naturally. Yeah,
absolutely. They're called medical receptionists, Marie.
Are they? What, this one?
Yeah. I think they only ask one question in the interview is, are you an absolute bitch? And they go, yes. And you go, fantastic. Can you start tomorrow?
There you go. That could be my next role.
You would be brilliant at that.
Very good. Yeah, I could be Linda Hardface, bitch.
Absolutely. So Linda works in our coaching team, and I don't know how long it took, but I don't know, felt like about 12 months. And we thought, well, you can be head of coaching. You can do training in our coaching team because of your ability to, I think, understand the detail, but still see the bigger picture and your organisation skills. And I think that's what most likely has also made you such a bloody good front of house. Let's maybe talk about that for a minute. Like, what was your role? Because it wasn't just a receptionist. I actually hate the word receptionist. I don't use it unless it's just to make the conversation easier. I just think a receptionist is someone that just answers the phone and makes appointments, and it's not what a business needs.
Yeah.
That's a waste of money. So maybe give us a bit of context to what you were doing and the impact that you made. Maybe some of your frustrations. I know that there's a story that you used to tell that one of your strategies was to go out in the laneway and just shout "fuck" down the laneway to get out your frustrations of the day. That's a good strategy for any front of house people listening.
You need a bit of stress relief every now and then as a front of house. So, well, you know what, to start with, I can't even say the R word. So, like if you say receptionist, that just makes me
I know,
I just think
It's a no-go zone.
it's a no-go zone for me. It's so much, it can be, that role can be so much more. So, you know what, the very first thing I learned was how to take appointments and how to answer the phone and how to juggle the book and all of that stuff. And that took some time to get used to. And I think that was probably all the expectations were on me in that role.
Really?
And then I just developed the role into something more over a period of time.
Yeah.
I could do this, I could do that. And I just found that I had a power for working with clients, talking about product, talking about what they could have done, talking about promotions, and that resulted in extra revenue for the business. So I had a power when I was there. The business was more productive in lots of ways, so time, team and money, more productive. But especially the revenue would change. And I love product, as you know, I'm a product queen. And so learning the product is something that is so important, because you can become the expert in home care at that front desk. You don't need to have a hairdresser or a clinician to do that for you. So yeah, there's a lot of obvious things that a front of house person can do, but there's a lot of not so obvious things. Working with the team, coordinating the team, especially the young ones. You're almost like the conduit between each team member, the team member and the business owner, the clients and the team members, the clients and the business owner. I used to call myself the conductor of the orchestra. So every team member was a musician, and I was the one at the front making sure they were all playing in tune. Did we play in tune all the time? Of course not.
And it's interesting because that particular responsibility of being the conductor and the coordinator and being that conduit is what most business owners don't do and are probably crap at, even if they're taught really well. Like if I was to rate your ability to do that role compared to mine, who ADHD, creative, all over the place, just wants to make people laugh, you would be better at that than me in my own business. So I think that it's an interesting concept, isn't it? That I think, people like myself and Marie, salon owners, are not necessarily the right person to coordinate the business.
Yeah, that's so true. There's a particular personality, and we'll probably talk a bit more about that, but a particular personality that suits front of house. And so I would say if anyone's interested in filling that role, coordinator, front of house, find the right person with the right personality.
Yeah, I agree, Linda, because I think the thing, I've had front of house team, Jay has, you've been it. And I think, over time, and we'll go deeper into this, the right and the wrong people, because definitely, like as I mentioned before, and what you've just said, it's the smile, isn't it? Like if someone at the front that you first see when you walk into the business has that big smile, it just gives you that sense of calmness and you're being looked after. And so many businesses don't see why they even need this. It's almost looked at as if like but that's just an extra expense. And I think, wow, if you only knew what they could do. Like, it's that learning what someone can do and, learning how a business owner can work on the business more rather than taking on all these small tasks that, like Jay said, they're not really that good at.
Yeah, I think business owners don't know what they don't know. I don't think
Correct.
a lot of business owners know what happens between the street or the shopping centre and the business and the clients. That conduit, again, between that is so, so vital. Clients would be scared to come in because, the salon I worked in was a little bit intimidating. Doors would be closed. And I'd go, come in. I'd go out to the door. Come on, it's windy. We've got the door closed. Come in. That passion and that warmth is so, so important. Clients not being 100% happy. We would get a much lower lost client rate when we had a coordinator in the salon, because we could sense that something wasn't right. I certainly could. And I'd sit down, I'd say, Marie, have you got a minute before you leave? Come and sit down with me. I'd say, you happy with everything today? And Marie would say, oh, just my fringe, it's not right. Let's fix that for you. So that could have turned into either a client having to ring back and come back, or it could have turned into a client not ever coming back again. You just don't know.
Just those nice touches, isn't it? It's the little touches. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that the salon that I did my apprenticeship at always had front of house. Like their hair and beauty team didn't know how to use the computer or the phones. In fact, there was a period of time we weren't allowed to answer the phone. We had to let it go to message bank, because we'd touch it and break it. But we had Louise and Lynn on front of house for most of my career in my apprenticeship. And many a times Louise would come and fish me out of the salon and say, get back out in receptionist. I have no idea when this client's meant to be rebooking. She's looking at the retail stand. You obviously haven't closed the sale properly. Get out there and do your job properly, love. You're making me look like a dickhead. So she was the accountability, not just the next appointment, no worries, see you next time. And I remember one time, Louise come and grabbed me and she said, I've brought your salon back through. There's a bit of hair that you've missed on her bob. It's hanging down lower. And I thought, good, that's what I wanted. Like
quality control. Quality control is one of those things. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But it's like Lynn wasn't a hairdresser. Lynn wasn't a beauty therapist. Louise certainly wasn't. She was useless at doing her own hair, but they had balls. And I suppose their strength, if anything, was confrontation. They were prepared to say, well, why aren't you happy? Or no, you haven't done your job properly, or wipe that look off your face. So they had confidence, which you do as well.
You definitely have to grow a set, and you definitely have to get permission. Like, I am going to be handling the handover at the desk. I'm going to be asking you this. I don't want you to come behind the desk. I want you to stand with your client, hand them over. A lot of therapists, hairdressers don't like that, because they actually love the chitter chatter at the desk when they leave. But that's what they forget to close the sale. They forget to rebook. They forget to talk about the latest promotion. They forget to give the welcome pack. And then their next client's late. Because they've been at that front desk. So that's another superpower. And that's where you can turn that experience for the client into something really amazing. And also you can turn it into money as well.
I was saying to Jay earlier, sorry, Jay, I was saying to Jay, one of the things that I remember going into a salon, and I remember this salon particularly because for me, I've had quite a few front of house teams, and the one I learned not to have is have someone that was in our industry, because they often get drawn back onto the floor. But the ones I've had have been absolutely amazing. And I think balancing like the hours your salon's open or your clinic, because you can't have one. Often you need two, and you often need, if someone's going to go on leave, you need someone to sort of jump in and do some casual, maybe, that front of house. So I remember this particular business is in a country area, and they put a front of house team member on, and her background was working at Adairs, and she was a manager, and she's come into this business. And I said to her, what do you think needs to be changed? Because I could just see her confidence oozing, like she looked the goods at the front. And I thought, wow, she's really polished, like you wanted to communicate with her. And she said, I just don't get it, Marie. She said, they don't recommend products. They don't hand their clients over properly. There's all this looseness when it comes to delivering the wow factor. She said, I almost just feel like I'm standing here like I'm not there. They don't even communicate with me. They just go, see ya. Like, and she said, it's so bad. She said, if I'm going to be here, I've got to fix just that, because why wouldn't you ask a client, how's your shampoo and conditioner going? Or would you like any products to go today? They ask it everywhere. And in her role at Adairs, and I'm sure most people listening would have been somewhere like that, there's always so many things like the tea towels or the washers. And she said they were the things that we were always to talk about. And she said, you nail that and you nail the sale. So there's an absolute reason why you need that front of house team member.
Yeah, and that's the customer service side of things, isn't it? So,
yeah,
definitely.
Those clients in that salon would leave with a shampoo, conditioner, a rebooking, their treatment booked in, the appointment booked next time, some linen spray, and they'd sign up to Linen Lovers.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. But we've all had that experience. And I think the thing is, why aren't we offering that, use Adairs as the example? Like, it's an experience, isn't it? And I think that they do all of those touches and they do it well. So yeah, it's definitely a learning to have somebody. So maybe why don't we talk about having that person that is in our industry and not in our industry and how that works? Because I think that's a pretty interesting conversation.
I have opinions on that.
You try and change my mind on this, like, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
All right, go for it.
Well, this is so controversial. I don't often refuse to do anything that a business owner asks me to do, but I refuse to learn how to shampoo. There you go. That's
good. Perfect.
I'm not learning to do it. I never intend to do it. That is not my role. It's not where I'm going to make you money. So from that, you can probably guess what my opinion is, and that is that I believe that hairdressers and beauty therapists make the worst front of house.
Absolutely. I think when hairdressing and beauty therapy has got nothing to do with front of house.
No.
And, I think the argument that I have is, when you go to your doctor's appointment, are they doctors and nurses that work on reception? No, they're not. Like, so why would you want any different? It doesn't make sense. But they know how to use the appointment book. Yeah, but that's an easy job to learn how to book things in and timings. That's so easy. But I always think about, if you cast your net wide and look for someone that can do that job, think about the backgrounds that some people have and experience in. Imagine hiring someone that was a ninja at photography. That'd be handy. Or did a marketing degree but didn't love it.
Yeah.
Or managed people in a different walk of life. Just have the right personality, the right oomph. It's got nothing to do with hair and beauty. 100%.
I can tell you that our front reception area was the best visual merchandising in any hairdresser. Because when there was downtime, that's what I did. Not cleaning, but I'd get the girls to clean and then I'd arrange. I'd always have a beautiful hero product display at the front. We'd have fresh flowers, the best magazines ever back in the day when magazines were a thing. And people loved that. Clients commented like, oh, it always looks so great coming here. It always smells so good.
Yeah.
Can
you imagine?
Did you put mannequins in reception?
No, I didn't. No.
Okay.
No. That might have been, no. That's what we call cheesy visual merchandising, Joe.
Oh, okay. Well, let's make that the next episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We will. Yeah.
Imagine Linda, she'd have the ruler out and she'd be measuring the products as they go on the shelves. Like, it would be absolute precision, wouldn't it?
I did. I actually had, this is my iPad box, but I actually had a little spacer that I would put, yeah, exactly.
I think you'd do my tits in.
I would.
Although, you know what? I for 2 years when I was very young, I was working on the grocery floor at Bilo. I used to face all the product, and I was so fast at it. Unbelievable. I was a ninja. I used to eat the produce in the lolly aisle. That's classed as stealing, but anyway, don't dub Bilo in.
I've got something else controversial to say about front of house. I had the highest retail sales for anyone in the salon, and in the salon there were 23, and I worked 20 hours a week.
Wow.
Why is that the case?
Because I asked and I talked and I got the knowledge, and I loved hair, and I always made sure my hair looked good, and I developed that rapport with clients that I was the go-to person. Linda knows everything about product.
So when you think about employing the smile, like you employ the smile, you also need to have the person, and I don't think there's ever been a day I've ever seen Linda not look good. Do you need to have somebody that looks amazing? So I think one of the prerequisites would be that how you want them to show up. So it might be, we want you to dress like in style. It's like somebody, if you worked at a certain store or their brand, they expect you to wear their brand clothes, so that someone says, do you sell this? And you go, oh no, sorry, we don't. Like, you need to dress so that you look beautiful. Your hair needs to be blow waved. There probably needs to be rules around that even, doesn't there?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because in the salons I worked, they always had uniforms, and they always had to wear black. They were only allowed to wear black. And of course I come in, loud
colour.
And I said, before I accepted the position, I'm like, do I have to wear black every day? And they went, no, we want you to express your personality at the front. So I did have a different set of rules, but there was a reason for that. It wasn't just letting her to do what she wanted. It was, Linda has a different role. It separates me from everyone who does hair. So yeah, I absolutely agree. Even on the days where you don't maybe feel your best, you walk through that door, and it's funny. I used to walk through the door and I was a different Linda, I guess, than I might have been when I was driving in that morning.
Yeah. And one of the things I know, Linda, when you and I spoke about this, and I think we've all spoken about together with Linda, is I don't even feel like I nailed front of house like you talk about it. And I know you helped our business develop what we call almost like the basic level of front of house, and then they're more advanced. And I think there is businesses in the clinic and hair space, salons, that aren't even at that level yet. So it's coming in at that basic fundamental. What would be some of the basic fundamental pieces or jobs that you would give somebody in that position? What would you say are the most basic things?
I think the most basic things is, number one, the appointment book and maximising the book. So really knowing how to get the most out of a book. So, when I say book, that's using an old term, but your software, your booking software. So that you're not having 10-minute gaps in between. You're making sure everybody is as efficient as possible. And that can be in the conversation you have with a client. So it sounds obvious, but a client might ring and ask for an appointment, and you can guide them to morning, afternoon, and you don't ask them what they want. You give them that kind of big, lots of options. You say, I've got 2:00. How does that suit? Yeah, that will be fine. So maximising the book, learning how to make that book work hard for you. I think the next most important thing, because it impacts every pillar of business, is establishing a protocol for handover at the desk. So what does that look like?
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
Really, really important. So nobody gets their nose out of joint. Like, Linda came in when I was doing this for my client, and she came in and interrupted or took the sale over. Let's have a meeting and discuss and make a plan and a strategy for what our handover at the front desk looks like. So you don't have your front of house going and cleaning the service station while that hairdresser comes and puts the sale through. It's quite the opposite. Yeah. You get everything sealed up, but that handover, that's the next most important thing.
Love that.
Can you remember when we went to the spa, when we did our team retreat in the CBD of Melbourne, and lockdown was announced while we were mid-treatment? But I remember having a facial, and she said, we're all finished now, get dressed and head out to reception. And that was the last I saw her.
Yeah.
So I didn't see her again. I don't know where she went. But I was greeted by and we knew that it was the salon owner on reception. I didn't see that was, there wasn't a handover because she smoke bombed. She was out of there.
Yeah.
She's gone on lunch break. She's off.
She disappeared.
Long lunch break. I don't know what she did. She might have been crying in the car park because she had to touch me for an hour. I don't know. But and we had a team member that we used to say that she used to dump and run. So she'd take a client and say, see ya. And then we're like, what? So,
yeah.
But yeah.
The other thing I think that's really basic is knowing what the targets are for the day, keeping everyone on track for that. That's a really good front of house position. Morning huddle, the person who can gather the team together for the morning huddle. If you are there in the morning, you may not start in the morning. Client prep, they're the main things. They're the things that are going to instantly have your front of house, salon coordinator or receptionist paying for themselves in no time.
And so if there's some of the basic, what would be some more advanced if we think, you know what, as my salon, I've got that sorted. What's a few more, like there's some that are more advanced. And I think that comes to what I've seen in the past is maybe even jobs that get handed over that the business owner does that could be given to that front of house person that's got that little bit of next level, I suppose, job role.
Yeah, probably going a little bit deeper in with the team and a bit deeper in with clients. So following up lost clients, that kind of, those things are great for a front of house because it's part of that client relations. I think they can impact the team in a really positive way by knowing where the team are all at with their KPIs and numbers. And I used to say to, hey, Sally, do you realise it's 5 o'clock and you're $100 off your monthly target for you to get profit share? Oh. You've got 2 clients left. What are you going to do? Yeah. And they'd be like, oh my God, I didn't even know. I didn't look. But you can get to that level where you can be all over that. That requires a higher level of operating. And
also you've got to pay them the big bucks too. You don't, it's a difference between a $30,000 a year receptionist and at the other end, So, but the thing is, some people in a traditional reception role, they don't cover their wage. So they don't cover their wage and they don't drive the growth of the business.
And I think I think that's because for whatever reason, the business owner, the reception, the team are not clear on what that person's there to do besides answer the phone and make appointments. So I think that's great. I think handover at the desk is the next most important thing because every KPI in your business will go up if you nail that. And the team will feel less stressed because they can actually give the information to the front of house, leave the client with them, and then go and do their job, what they're best at, the things they're the best at.
And what about things like stock control? Where does that come in? Is that, I mean, for me, my apprentice would do that she had that nailed, but sometimes that could be a job that gets handed across to front of house. Was that something you did, Linda?
It could be. I did do it in the beginning, but as I sort of went to a higher level, I didn't. But I did oversee it. It was my responsibility, but I didn't do the counting anymore. But everybody knew what the system was. When stock comes in, it's not Linda's day. You better have that packing slip. It better be ticked off. You better have the invoice there and in Linda's drawer because she's going to ask you for it. It was, but it wasn't a high value activity for me to count stock anymore.
No. Yeah, I'd avoid that. If anything, I'd say no. That can be, that was one of our
apprentices' jobs was to do that. Actually, I've got a question for you, for both of you. What was your favourite thing about having a front of house, Marie?
That she had everyone in the business sorted. Like she would talk to the team in the hair side. She talked to the team in the beauty side. She would give clarity of your clients early. She would give clarity that just letting it, she did stock for a while and then we handed it over, same thing. But I just feel like as an overall, I felt she kept the whole team calm. Like, last one was Kelly and Pippa. Kelly had it sorted. So can we just get Kelly to do that? Yes, she can. Like, Kelly had it sorted in the team. And I feel like the calmness that it created for the salon was just lovely, because she had the tea, the coffees, the welcome just nailed. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What about you, Joe?
I think two things. One was that she was the gatekeeper. So if I didn't work late on Wednesday nights, if it was up to me, I'd book a client in Wednesday night and go, well, and it's just delaying the pain. I'd get to Wednesday in 6 weeks' time and curse myself for doing that. So being able to leave it with someone that doesn't have that emotional attachment to the client was really valuable to me. I know that's quite specific, but also we had business cards that actually folded out and had like 12 spots for appointments. And she wouldn't just rebook the client's next appointment, she'd book people for the remainder of the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to do that. At the end of December, I'd have, there'd be maybe a dozen clients, just book them for the whole year, print them out and give them to them.
So for me, it was retention. That aided with retention. It created another problem, because if a client decided to go on holidays mid-year and had to push her next appointment out 2 weeks, that you then have to push all the remainder of appointments. But it doesn't matter. Like, the benefit of having them have that anchor point in the appointment book outweighed the admin of having to change it. It was fine. But retention. That was biggest impact. And if your rebooking and retention doesn't go up with having someone in that role, they're not the right person.
Exactly. Yeah. They're not doing the job. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because they're quite different reasons. So I think that shows the diversity of the role, what it can start with, what it can grow to, what it can end up being.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's very, very diverse role. I mean, there are things like administrative things and social media. I didn't do very much of that. But that may be something that you really want your front of house to do. And I think that's okay too. Just be careful about the admin stuff. I think that can bog down, and that's not a front of house's superpower. It might help you with time, but I don't think it's going to help your KPIs and your team. Yeah.
We have a client that the salon opens at 10 a.m, but the front of house starts at 9. Yeah, and that's brilliant. She loves that.
Yeah. I used to start, and in one role I had an hour before because we had a lot of setup, but in every other one, a half an hour before everyone else.
Yeah.
I love that time. I'd come in, I'd turn things on, get candles lit, blah, 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 get the beverages. I'd have one apprentice start early with me.
Same. Yeah, we had the same.
Yeah, like getting your house sorted for guests, sorted all for guests, and then people would come in. And we wouldn't answer the phone at that time. We'd let the phone. It was all about setting up, and then maybe the last 10 minutes we'd do phones and stuff.
We used to call it warm and cool time. So Kelly would come in and make the room feel warm and the candles lit, or it was boiling hot. So you'd walk in and go, oh, it's so nice in here. So it was cool time, because that's what she did. She made it feel comforting. So it was really lovely. What about, there was one thing I was going to go deep into, was where do we find these team members? Because I found them in some interesting places. So I'd love to know, where do we find front of house? I've got a couple of stories around this, because I think a lot of people think that it's hard to find a front of house team member. I actually didn't find this hard at all. So I'd love to know where you found them, Jay.
When I'd never have to advertise, but I always knew someone. So because it's not necessarily a job where you need a degree or a certificate, I think it's really broad to who could do that role. So it was always someone that knew someone that knew someone. You just got to talk to people. So there's that. One of our clients, she advertised last year for a front of house person, and she wasn't specific enough with what she needed, and she had 300 applicants. So you can be really fussy with what you ask for because you don't need a degree. It's not that specific. So I think be fussy if you're going to advertise for it, because it's a brilliant job for so many people. And don't be a tight ass, pay them more. But yeah, that's probably a very dull answer. But yeah, very rarely. I don't think you need to advertise. You'll know
Never.
someone.
Yeah. So 3 of mine I employed over a wax. The last one was a Brazilian wax, and Kelly was so funny. She was I remember chatting to her about her daughter, and she said, "Oh, my daughter's going into school and I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm working at a job." She was working at a furniture type business where they had a reception type business person, and she said, "Oh, there's a team of us and I just don't think it's going to work. I do 8 till 5. I said, "Well, what is it that you want?" And she said, "Well, school hours." And I said, "I'll employ you." That's how I employed her. And it was over the Brazilian. And the same with Pippa. She was our casual, a Brazilian wax. Exactly the same thing. Chatted to her and she said, "I work in the family business. I just feel like I need to get out and go and do something else." I said, "What do you want to do?" She said, "I don't know." And I said, "How about if I employ you?" She says, "What would I do?" Because they think that it's what you're doing, you're going to employ them as. So for me, it was more about talking to the clients. But I did have one experience where I put an ad in the paper, because that's what you did to employ people way back. And I wasn't clear on who I wanted. So you don't need experience, which is true. You need a smile. And I remember saying that if you just turned up at the salon at 3 o'clock, because we closed, and at 2 o'clock, all these people started pouring in. And I remember saying to the girls, actually, Kelly wasn't there that day. And I said to Jojo, I said, "Jo, who are all these people? Like, they got appointments, or is it a wedding party coming in, or what's happened?" And she said, "No, they've come for the job." I said, "Wasn't it 3 o'clock?" And all of a sudden there was 64 people turned up for that position. And I thought, wow, what am I going to do with them all? Like, they're all in reception. And one by one, we took them upstairs. I said, "Go and put them in one of the rooms upstairs," because there was no one up there. And they went upstairs and I said, "Look, I think the only way I can actually say thank you for applying is thank you. But maybe I should be really clear on the position. I'm quite overwhelmed by how many people have turned up for the position, but let's basically," for me, it was to clear the room as such, was the examples that maybe I didn't write down in the ad is, are you prepared to work Saturday, Thursday night? And there was something else I can't remember, but it was just asking that. I said, if you're not prepared to do those few things, or it doesn't work with your family because you take kids to sport on a Saturday, because you could tell there was like quite executive women turn up in suits and jackets and all different. I said, "I'm more than happy for you to leave if that doesn't work." Well, half the room left. So I thought, well, that was good, because I didn't have to interview them. So I think my learning around that was, if you were to advertise, maybe be a little bit more specific in what you need. And we got some great people out of doing that ad. And it's actually quite interesting, because you don't need an ad. The amount of people that would show up, even just by asking a couple of friends, would be mind-blowing.
Had 4 different jobs as salon coordinator. They were all offered to me.
Yeah.
So the first one was, I was there for a blow dry. The business owner was there. "Hey, Linda, nice to see you." She's like, "Oh my God, I'm advertising for a front of house." She said the last one that came in introduced herself and kissed me before an interview. She's like, "Oh my God, I need to find someone with maturity, the right person." She's like, "Someone like you." And I'm like, "Tell me what you want." And I ended up working for her. The next time I was buying product in another business. Chat with the business owner, offered me a job. So, it is word of mouth. And I would say I agree, Marie, with the not negotiable is, really, if you're looking for a front of house person, really be specific about the hours you want, because you want them there during the busiest client times. You don't want them there on a quiet day, whatever that is for you, or a quiet half day, where they're just kind of, doing admin stuff and sweeping and that kind of thing. You need to use their power at the time when it's most powerful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So true, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So I think when anytime we get to the end of a podcast episode, we always like to give our opinion on what's hot and what's not. And I think it allows us to be really specific with what's the number one take home from this particular session. If you learn something from this session, what would it be? And I think we could collectively agree that I think one thing that's really hot is broadening your mindset around who could fill that role. And it does not need to be someone with experience or hair and beauty industry experience. Is there anything else that I'm missing on that? Or do you feel like that's the number one thing you want to drive home? Because that's it for me.
Yeah, that's it for me too. I think that the only exception to that is maybe they used to be a hairdresser, so they have a little bit of knowledge. They used to be a beauty therapist. They went off, had 4 kids and came back into the industry. There could be a little bit of that, but they're absolutely never going on the floor, and you've got to make that very, very clear from day one. So I would absolutely say it's an absolute no-brainer.
100%.
Couldn't agree more. There's maybe a little caveat where I would fine tune it a little bit. I would probably look for someone who has come from or had customer service experience.
Oh, yes, okay.
Or people, I think it helps. I think it shows you that they already know a level of dealing with people, dealing with the team, dealing with clients. Yeah.
And I think for what's not hot is just the opposite of what I've already said. But I think to add to that would be don't waste your money on a receptionist.
Yeah.
Don't waste it. I think you are better off just to get your team to step up and manage that role themselves. It's just a waste of money. Don't have a button presser.
Yeah, until you're ready to make the commitment to the kind of stuff that we've talked about today, don't have a button presser. Yeah.
Beautifully put, 100%.
And I think for me, what's not hot, don't ask your front of house to shampoo someone's hair.
No.
That is not hot.
No.
100%.
Love that. Love it.
All righty. Thank you so much for joining our episode. It was a great first hurrah into having a guest. I think it is difficult to manage the microphone when you've got 3 very opinionated people in the one Zoom room, isn't it?
On a topic that we all love,
absolutely. So thank you, Linda.
Thanks for having me. It's been a privilege. And yes, I apologise for the can't help it sometimes.
It's good. It makes for good energy. Alrighty. Do all the things. Make sure that you like, subscribe, share, screenshot, send it to your mum, your hairdresser, your beauty therapist, and leave us a review. We've got a handful of reviews and one sneaky bastard that's left us a 5-star review. So if you can bump our average up, we'd love you long time. So thanks so much.
Awesome.
Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jay.